After months of conflict and sacrifice in the DRC, SANDF troops have started returning home following the termination of the SADC peacekeeping mission. The withdrawal marks a critical moment in South Africa's regional security policy. Pikkie, SANDF union spokesperson, joins us to reflect on the mission and the toll it has taken. Pikkie, appreciate your time this afternoon. Let's start off with the main operational challenges faced by SANDF in the DRC.
No, I think, the whole complicated business about bringing our troops back in a quicker fashion and the equipment and so on really just indicates to a lack of funding and what we've been saying all along from the very start of this deployment. We don't have the capabilities to get involved in deployments of this scale. And it's simply been shown now by what's happened yesterday and by the ongoing process. It's really time for South Africans to pay attention to the fact that the Defence Force is in a state of neglect. It needs fixing, and it's no use that the politicians try and ignore it by doing further deployments or anything of that sort. If we cannot support our personnel properly, they should not be deploying.
There have been multiple conversations around whether or not SANDF should have been in the DRC. What's your perspective?
No, look, it's not the union's business to comment on whether deployment is sensible in the sense of a political decision was taken to deploy them there. Whatever the reasons may be, it doesn't really matter. The point is just that as long as our soldiers are not properly supported in terms of logistics, equipment, and protection and weapon systems and so on and defense systems, we have no business deploying. The soldiers over there, let's not underestimate the level of anger that is prevalent amongst the rank and file that is deployed there. They've been dropped from month one where they didn't have proper accommodation, improper ablution facilities, not enough food to eat, and that just ended up in the fiasco of January this year. And then we all know in what dire circumstances they found themselves for the past 6 to 7 months. It's not something that can just be ignored. We have to take note of it. We have to listen to the voices of those soldiers, and we have to show our support to them now. And while we're on that topic, I think it's also important to say, I see there was a piece in the introduction about the psychological side of it. Let's really hope, and the union is going to push very hard for it, that this psychological help that these soldiers are getting, it's not just a 1 or 2 day thing. It's going to have to be something that's going to have to be intense. It's going to have to be continuous, and we are definitely going to monitor that as a union.
Why are the troops angry?
Well, for the way that they were treated while they were there. Their complaints were simply ignored, or where a problem was pointed out, they were told to keep quiet. And even if the problem was solved in the end, it took months on end, for instance, to just get them proper accommodation. Some of those troops had to pay for their own tents. It's completely ridiculous. It's absolutely unacceptable. The defensive systems that were in place there or were not in place there obviously heightened the risk profile of the deployment, and it really exposed our troops to unnecessary danger. And let me just make this point. Our troops were definitely very brave and very gallant on that battlefield. For them not to have proper support when they are willing to put their lives on the line for this country and this flag and this nation, that is completely unacceptable. It can never happen again. We must never forget this lesson.
Now, finally, before we let you go, there is going to be a process of reintegration, from what we understand, of these troops. Just walk us through very quickly how that process will work.
Well, typically there would be some psychologists and other people in that field working with the troops for a day or two, assessing every individual. And then, of course, as you heard in that introduction, they will be then sent on deployment leave or leave after deployment so that they can be with their families, who we believe also need psychological help for the trauma that they've been through as families. And then they'll be returning back to their units, into the posts that they are staffed in. And hopefully in that process, and that's what I was referring to earlier in this interview, when they get back into their units in the post that they are staffed in, hopefully then they will not just be forgotten. There will be a regular schedule, well, at least we'll make sure from the union side that there is some kind of plan that will psychologically take care of the soldiers also on the long term, not only in a few weeks or a few days.
Pikkie, SANDF Soldiers Union spokesperson. Appreciate your time this afternoon and speaking to us about an angry troop of soldiers whose complaints and wishes largely were ignored while they were fighting in the DRC.